Hi, it's Kevin with KHEAA, and April is Financial Literacy Month. So all this month on our YouTube channel, we're going to be posting about different forms of financial literacy. Now, before we begin my video today, you might be asking yourself, why does Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority care about financial literacy? Well, if you think about it, right? Higher education is whatever it is that you need to do after high school in order to get the job that you want to get. Why do you want to have that job? So you can make boku bucks. And over the last several years, I've learned it's not necessarily how much money you make. Certainly that's important, but it's what you do with the money that you do make. So today, to start off this month, we're going to be talking about budgeting. There are a lot of people that think that budgeting is a four-letter word. They think that somehow a budget is going to shackle them into being able to only spend so much here and so much there and basically get in the way of living their lives. But over the last few years, as I've been learning more about budgeting and starting to apply these concepts in my own life and my own finances, I've found that budgeting, it's actually freedom. I'm hoping that by the end of this video, you'll see why. When I first started trying to figure this whole budgeting thing out, I had recalled way back when I was a senior in high school that I had been taught that roughly a fourth to a third of my income should be going towards living expenses, and I liked that rule. Only now I wanted to figure out what that other 70% or so of my money should go towards. So I did what any sane person would do. I did a Google search. Turns out there are a lot of budgeting resources on the internet. And there's a lot of great resources. Resources like 2 Cents or School First FCU's It's a Money Thing video playlist. Really great resource. Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. I know a lot of schools are using that right now for their financial literacy classes. And of course, KHEAA has resources like It's Money Baby. These are all good and they're all different. Keep in mind, budget isn't a hard and fast rule. It's more like a guideline. While all of these guidelines are different, they do agree that we need to be using real numbers. Easiest way to find those real numbers is by taking your last 3 bank statements. Now, why 3 months worth? Well, simply put, you're going to have some expenses like rent that are going to stay the same, sure. But there's going to be other expenses like utilities or transportation that are going to vary depending on usage that month. And we want to find out that average. Using those averages, we're then going to assign them a category based on the guideline that you've chosen. So if I'm using It's Money Baby, on page 5, I see that housing should be 30%. This is going to include not just my rent, but my renter's insurance and utilities as well. How'd I do? Is it 30% of my take-home pay, or do I need to make adjustments? Chances are you're going to have to change or adjust something somewhere, especially as you're beginning this whole budgeting thing. Essentially, there are only 2 variables though, your income and your expenses. So how do we go about changing those? Changing your income could be as simple and easy as picking up an extra shift, volunteering to work overtime, or taking on a second job. But it could also mean going for that higher education so you can have a career change. Again, it's not necessarily how much money you earn, though, it's what you do with that money. So the real question is, how do we change our expenses? When it comes to adjusting our expenses, the most important concept that we really need to get straight in our brain is the difference between a need and a want. Needs are far more important than wants. One of the interesting things that I found out when doing all my research and learning all about this budgeting thing is that while the percentages might vary, every reputable source says that savings are an absolute must. Think about it, y'all. Life happens. Now, it could be good things or it could be bad things. You could meet your soulmate and want to get married. Well, weddings are expensive. Or it could be a bad thing. Maybe your car broke down or you had to go to the hospital. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, if you have a savings account already set up, you can handle those emergencies pretty well. It's not going to be fun, but it's not going to throw you into crippling debt. Those people that don't have a savings account, well, they got to figure out how to pay for it somehow. And a lot of people end up borrowing or using credit cards to do that. You may have noticed, I haven't actually created a budget yet. We've done a lot of preliminary work. We've looked at our past expenses and started to analyze that. We've compared that to our chosen guideline that we're going to use as our template for our budget. And we've even started thinking about different ways that we can adjust our earning or our spending money. Now it's time to actually write out our budget. And it is really important that we write this out. If you keep it in the back of your mind, you're going to forget. I want you to sit down and write this out. It can be hard copy, pen and paper, old-fashioned, or it can be done with an app or on your computer on a spreadsheet. My wife and I, we use Google Sheets so that we can share it between the two of us while we're out and about buying things at the grocery store. Step number 1 in writing out your budget is to list your take-home pay. Keep in mind this is your take-home pay, not your gross pay, so anything after taxes and deductions. The second step then in writing out our budget is, of course, to record our expected expenses. Now I'm going to do this in 3 categories. First is going to be my needs. So this is going to be things like housing, utilities, food, minimum debt payments, whatever it might be that I need to take care of. And I'm going to take those expected expenses and I'm going to subtract that from my expected income. The second is going to be savings. Now this can mean for that rainy day fund, but it can also be retirement or extra payments on any debts that you might have so that you don't have to pay more in the long run. Third is our wants. This is going to be vacations, eating out, or whatever it is that you really want to do but you don't need to do. If I have any money left over, I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep on adjusting until I have a zero-sum game. And the reason I can do this is because I have that savings category. So pay extra debt or put more away for that rainy day fund. Now, what happens if you're already into the red? Well, that's when you're going to have to start adjusting in different ways, like buying generic foods or taking out some of those wants. Step 3 then in writing out your budget is to record what's really going on with your money. In other words, how much money did you really earn in your paychecks? How much did you really spend at the grocery store or the gas station? Doing this as it happens will allow you to adjust your spending or your budget as necessary. The last step in budget making is to constantly be analyzing and adjusting your budget as your needs, financial goals, and your wants change. It may take you some time to get really good at this whole budgeting thing, but I think that once you do, you're going to have a lot of power in knowing exactly where your money's going and what that money is doing. And with that power comes freedom.